Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the AfterShock Happy Hour and Live Sale. I'm your host and the communications specialist here at AfterShock Comics, RuthAnn Thompson. So we have a very exciting show today. We're going to have one of our top ambassadors on, and then we're going to talk to the infamous Paul Tobin, who not only has a new title out, but also a Hulu show that's just been greenlit. And right before we start the show, I do want to raise a glass to Tim Sale, an incredible artist and writer. Thank you, sir, for all of your work, and looking forward to being able to go back and look through it and, rest in peace. So, all right. And getting on to the show, we're going to have one of our early on ambassadors who is joining us from the Portland area, and he's our first ever ambassador at large visiting shops remotely now. And he is also our ambassador of the month, Jeff Spry. Hello, sir. How are you?
Good. How's it going? Glad to be here.
Yes, I'm so glad to have you here as well. Oh, and we have people commenting right away as well. Hello, Christine H. and Creed. Adam Skinner, he's asking if we're looking for an ambassador in Arkansas. Not quite yet, but definitely apply, and maybe soon we will be. So, Jeff, speaking of becoming an Aftershock ambassador, how did you first hear about Aftershock? What was the first things that kind of drew you to us?
Well, so I've been a major entertainment journalist since 2012, especially for the Sci-Fi Network and sci-fi.com. And then I branched out and I write for Inverse and space.com. Also, I'm also a huge collector of comics, especially old Bronze Age horror comics.
Would not have noticed from behind you. Not at all.
Yeah. And so covering almost all the majors and mini majors in comics, I started noticing Aftershock around 2015-16 when they first began, and I remember Dreamin' Eagles. That was the first title that I picked up. Garth Ennis and Simon Colby's book about the P-51 African-American P-51 pilots in World War II. Loved it, and then from then I'm friends with Cullen Bunn, and so Cullen Bunn's a big legacy Aftershock creator, and so Dark Ark was the book. He and Juan Doe's Dark Ark were that was the other book that I picked up and did a lot of coverage on it when it first came out, and then started following Aftershock and doing reviews and exclusive reveals for Aftershock after that.
Yeah, and it's been so wonderful having you on the team. And as I mentioned earlier, you are our ambassador in the month, and also you're our first ever ambassador at large. So basically, you're covering our shops that are across the West Coast, doing virtual visits with them. So tell us a little bit about like what you do and the shops that you work with.
Yeah, so I'm pretty fortunate. All my shops are fantastic. Every single owner and manager are completely on board and are hugely supportive of the title, and have actually bolstered their numbers in almost every single store. I cover California, Oregon, Utah, and New Mexico. And so I have 12 stores. The only store that I visit in person is a store here in my neighborhood called Geek Nerd, which is it's one of the biggest comic book stores I've ever been in, and I'm talking about across the United States. But all of the owners are completely invested in the brand, push the titles, love the quality of the books, and the edge. Aftershock has kind of a cool edge, and I always say to people, if I was a comic book company, I would be Aftershock.
Ooh, excellent. That's a great compliment. And then saying hello to everybody in the chat here, Lady Grayson on Twitch, Edward Hui on Facebook, and the Paul Dunn Show on YouTube. Hello. And then Brian wants to give you a compliment. He says, wow, this dude's not playing. Great ambassador work, Jeff.
Yeah,
And
it's a great gig. I love it, and I'm just so proud of all the people that work at Aftershock. It's just a real pleasure to work with everyone and to help support the brand and spread the gospel of Aftershock, so to speak.
yeah, absolutely. Oh, and Adam Skinner actually also knows love because he loves Geek Nerd as well. So it is a very large and popular shop.
Yeah, it's
Uh,
fantastic.
Yeah. And so for you, you get to read all of our books, usually a little bit before they come out. So for you, what are your top picks of the month for this month?
So as you can see in the background with my Disneyland poster of the Rocket to the Moon ride, I'm a huge science fiction guy. My uncle was Bill Varney, who won an Academy Award for sound editing for The Empire Strikes Back and Raiders of the Lost Ark. And he also worked on David Lynch's Dune. John Carpenter's The Thing, and on and on and on. And so science fiction is my thing. So my favorite new titles are, well, one is absolutely Wando is a acquaintance of mine, and his Spectro is amazing. And since I'm a science fiction nut, I also love that AfterShock is sort of steering in that direction more with books like Astronaut Down and Where Starships Go to Die. Those, and then an unexpected one that I really like this month is Midnight Rose. And that was one that that's normally something I don't read. I don't read that type of stuff. And I picked it up and I was hooked. I love Jim Starlin, of course, and that's another favorite. That one shot was really fantastic. I hope people pick it up because it's again something I would not immediately pick up if I were in a store, but once I did, completely loved it. So there's so many to choose from. Of course, I'm a Bunny Mask fan and a Chicken Devil fan. Who isn't? But the science fiction stuff is fantastic, and I hope that we continue down that path with more science fiction.
Yeah, absolutely. And Forrest Bass agrees with you. He says, "Oh, Spectra was so good. Just got it last week." Adam Skinner, I believe, is asking about. I'm assuming you're asking about Midnight Rose. So Midnight Rose. Why don't you tell them, Jeff, what Midnight Rose is about?
Well, Midnight Rose is it's I want to call it. I'm a huge Swamp Thing nut, so I love that whole mythology, and especially the recent run. Mike Perkins and Ram V is one of my favorite books out there right now. Also, the DC run of Swamp Thing. So it feels like a female revenge story if Swamp Thing was a woman and with sort of a checkered past, and it has horror elements. It has sort of leaks into some science fiction, and it's just, I don't want to spoil anything because it's very immersive, and once you start reading it, you cannot stop. But it has an interesting sort of an ecological theme to it, but it has a sort of a revenge theme to it, all sort of wrapped up in a sort of almost like a coming of age story as well, if you were a monstrous creature and had that in
Which everybody has a coming of age, whether you're a monster or not.
yeah. So it's kind of a mixed bag of a lot of different things, but it all coalesces into a real satisfying story.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're getting more comments from people on YouTube as well with really great suggestions for books. Christine H says, Buddy Mask, Maniac of New York, and Astronaut Down are all so good. Paul Dunshow also agrees that he really loved Astronaut Down and Where Starships Go to Die and can't wait for the new issues. Edward Huey from Facebook saying Dogs of London, and yeah, and Adam Skinner, you're right. Everything is so well rounded at Aftershock. So as always, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe, because every Tuesday I'll be talking about the books that are coming out, and we'll be having a lot more interviews and that kind of stuff with amazing people like Jeff. So Jeff, for anybody out there to follow you on the social media, where can they follow you?
I am on Twitter at Stingray Ghost. And then you can follow my reviews and reveals and celebrity interviews and creator interviews on space.com. Some of my older reviews for the last 9 years are on sci-fi.com. And then I do a lot of work for inverse.com. And so between those three, I've probably got about 1,000 articles out there. So, and then of course I try to cover as many Aftershock titles as I can. And it's so easy because there's so many great ones to cover. Space.com obviously is more sci-fi oriented. So I'm just glad I was able to get some word out on Astronaut Down and Where Starships Go to Die. And so, yep. I'm out there. I'm out there in abundance for sure.
Yes.
And waving the flag for Aftershock. And it's like I said, it's an easy gig because I really support the material and I read it all myself. So
that's so great. Well, we are so honored to have you part of the Aftershock Ambassador Program and to have you on here today. Thank you again so much for joining.
Yeah, you're welcome. Well, thank you for everyone out there that supports Aftershock and read dangerously.
Yes, absolutely. So everybody stick around. We'll be right back with the man of the hour, Paul Tobin. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the AfterShock Happy Hour and Live Sale. We are here with the man of the hour. He's written so much incredible stuff with us, and we have a big new announcement from him for a new Hulu show that's based on his newest book that just came out yesterday, Paul Tobin. Hello, good sir. How are you?
Good. Happy to be here.
Yes, it's so glad. I'm so excited to have you back. It feels like it was just yesterday that you were here on Happy Hour with us before, but now we have not only a new book from you, but we also have a new huge announcement. So for anybody that missed it, A Calculated Man just came out yesterday, and it is about a man who does math a little too well and has actually used it in a very different way once he is leaving the Pinafore mob family. So Paul, why don't you tell the folks here who whether they've picked up the first issue or not, what this story is about?
It's about Jack Beans. He's an ex-mob accountant, and he basically decides that since the mob has found him, he's in the witness protection program, that the only way to solve this, the best way to solve this problematic equation is to kill every single member of the mob family. So he uses his math skills to do it.
Yeah, and it's not only math skills that he has, but he has a photographic memory from every detail of a situation, whether, when he's standing on a sidewalk, he can tell you exactly where he was standing, who was driving by, how fast they were going, everybody's name, age, like every single detail. It's like, it's an incredible, like, Rain Man to the, like, 10th degree. And then for
Yeah,
you,
he's got many different he's very alternative in his brain. He's got synesthesia, so he sees numbers as certain numbers are numbers for him. There are actually people in the world like that, which I think is fascinating, and many of them are very good mathematicians because they can literally see equations in a different way. And Jack can't lie too. That's a big part of the series. That's one of his main things. And there's a couple of surprises he's got too that won't really be clear until the end. Maybe some clever reader will like dig them out. But yeah, he's different in other ways than we tell it first.
yeah, and we have Alicia on Facebook saying that as a math lover, this sounds amazing. I'm in. So, for you, where did this character come from that, by using these math skills and all that kind of stuff, he actually ends up being a better mobster than any of the people that he's dealing with?
Part of it is just because viewpoints of the world, different viewpoints, and how people see the world has always fascinated me, because we all live in the world with everybody else, but none of us live in quote unquote the same world because we all see things differently and interpret things differently. I used to work in a bookstore, a really big bookstore, Powell's here in Portland, Oregon, where I live. And I ran the math section. So I always had a fascination for math and reading about these people. And like I mentioned, there are some people with synesthesia, a word I can't pronounce very well, sorry, that do literally see math. And that's fascinating for me to think of that perception. So that was part of the original. And it was like taking it one step further or 5 or 6 steps farther. I wanted to do a crime story, so I just kind of threw a bunch of disparate elements together and came up with Jack Beans.
Yeah, and for the look of Jack Beans, because he has such a very specific look. I know because we had a conference call about this when you first were coming on board for this title. Tell everybody else what your actual physical inspiration was for Jack.
Well, there were a lot of different physical inspirations, and I can remember Alberto Albuquerque. He's an artist. We've worked together before, and just fantastic. And usually when we design characters, there's this stage where I sort of describe a character, and the artist will send back like 5 or 6 possibilities of something like this or something like this. Alberto sent in just short of 100 different face sketches for Jack Beans. And he's like, which one here? So we ended up doing like a Mr. Potato Head thing almost, of like, let's use this nose, but this hair, because I loved the hair, have this sort of like crazy hair.
He's almost like, the 10th Doctor,
yeah,
like David Tennant's hair. It's incredible.
Right. Yes, absolutely. But but yeah, I wanted specifically a guy who didn't look like he can do the things that he does. I wanted a guy who was a brain. So it's sort of, there's a little Nick Cave, there's a little Richard Feynman, who's one of my favorite scientists in the real world, and he was really good with math too, and a bunch of other elements, probably Iggy Pop. I think pretty much any time that I design a character, there's a little bit of Iggy Pop in it. It'll be like Iggy Pop of the 70s or Iggy Pop of the 80s. And there's a character in Bunny Mask right now, one of my other titles, that's basically Iggy Pop of the current day. So,
yeah, I was just about to say, we'll talk about that later, but yeah. And then, as most people have heard, the wonderful announcement that just came out last week or the week before, and Adam Skidder just mentioned it here on Facebook, he says, this book sounds awesome, and it sounds like it will transition over to the show perfectly, because you have been greenlit for this to be a show on Hulu. And we were going to have Peter Calloway joining us on the show today. Unfortunately, he was too busy, who is also an AfterShock alumni, and he's actually going to be the showrunner. So tell us a little bit about like how that all came to be, how you're feeling, because now you're going to have this as a Hulu show. Like, this was greenlit as the show before the first issue even came out, so it's really exciting.
Yeah, it was actually greenlit as a show before I was completely through with the first issue. We were still doing some of the back matter of it, so it was weird to be doing a book that I'm still working on the first issue that has already been greenlit. But yeah, Lee Kramer, who's the film TV guy for AfterShock, he started getting, when we did the announcement of the book, he started getting multiple avenues of interest right away, and it just kind of snowballed, and there was a little bit of like a few companies vying for each other, and Hulu. Lee and I talked about it, and actually it was Peter that was a big factor, because we decided that we could trust him with a calculated man. But yeah, it was really kind of interesting, because like once the announcement went out, I was like wanting to be on Twitter and going, hey, everybody, who do you think should, what actors do you think should play Jack Beans and the other characters? And I was like, and then I realized, well, nobody else knows this book yet. Nobody can play the casting game yet, because nobody's seen the book. So it was really weird to sell it to Hulu quickly. But I'm really excited. I'm really excited to see what Peter does and what actors do end up as, especially Jack Beans and Vera, who's a girlfriend, very important side character. Not even a side character, main character. I'm intrigued to see who plays her and some of the others. Casting game's always fun.
Yeah, absolutely. And actually, we have a great question on that from Facebook. Adam Skinner asked, do you get a lot of say with what happens in the show?
Not really. I actually don't want too much say. I'm not quite an Alan Moore going, I wash my hands, but at the same time, I do comics, and I'm comfortable with comics. I actually have a couple other film deals, and they're always asking, where how do you want to fit in? And honestly, advisor and producer is a good level for me, because I still need time to write my other comics and work on novels. So, and that's like when I was talking earlier about trusting Peter, that's one of the reasons that Hulu was such a good choice for us, is because I knew immediately with him on board and with him as showrunner that I wouldn't need to put my foot and go, wait, where's this? This is crazy. You guys are going off, So now I can just rest easy and take naps and stuff.
Yeah, exactly. Well, it sounds like we already have some people who want to be Jack Beans. Nathan Duncan says he's dressing up as Jack Beans tonight for his show. And then we already have it as a suggestion for casting from JD Smith saying Steve Buscemi would be a good call. I feel like when he was younger, I feel like he might have aged out of the Jack Beans so far.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, and that's a really great point too. On Facebook, Forrest Based says, hopefully you can get a cameo in the series. Like, how fun would that be?
Yeah, I hope to do something like that. I think I've told you before that like one of my dreams on Earth is a cameo in a Godzilla movie. And I just want to be one of the guys running from Godzilla, just going, ah, Godzilla. That's a dream. But like, if I could just be a guy in a bar having a bourbon in the back of Calculated Man, or maybe some thug that Jack shoots, that would be fun too.
Well, maybe we could do that. And also, since Kaiju Score is going to be a movie, maybe we can get you as one of the people that gets killed by the kaiju in the movie. Make your dream come true, Paul. Make your dream come true. And so this has been a big week for you because we also had issue 2 of Bunny Mask: The Hollow Inside. So let's talk a little bit about Bunny Mask, because this is like it is interesting that, like, again, you said that like a lot of your characters are based off of Iggy Pop, and now the Hollow is very much a nowadays Iggy Pop, very, very terrifying character. So tell us a little bit, because like for those who have read issue 2, we're finally dealing with the issue of what B is, because like she just didn't exist between the cave and then being a waitress, and now like the last panel of her meeting Bunny Mask, I'm like, what's gonna, oh, I thought she was Bunny Mask, what's gonna happen? So what can you tell us without spoiling it completely?
Well, what can I tell you without spoiling it completely? But I know what you mean about like the meetings finally happening. Seems like every time that Andrea Moody turns in some pages right now for the 3rd and 4th issues, that instead of the usual, oh, I like this arc, maybe move this around, all the editorial staff is going, finally, this is happening. We've been waiting for this for so long, which is really gratifying when the editorial staff is that behind it. But yeah, B didn't exist before, and Bunny Mask is a series that, especially the 2nd series, has a lot to do with concepts of existence, because the Hollow, which we mentioned, is the main villain of the 2nd series, and his thing is he devours your very existence in totality. He doesn't just wipe you off the face of the earth; he wipes you off having ever existed. You never existed. All traces of you throughout history are gone once he gets to you, which to me is a terrifying thing. So we're dealing with existence in the 2nd series, and the Snitch is sort of making a comeback. And I think everybody's sort of questioning who and what they are, and especially B, like you said, now meeting Bunny Mask for the first time, a character that she thought might be just in a figment of her imagination, but now she's with her. So yeah, it's been fun dealing with that.
And one thing, and again, this book is terrifying, so sorry for anybody watching this who hasn't read it with the stuff I'm about to describe. But for the Hollow character, he uses hooks, like he keeps using these little hooks to like pull different pieces of the person apart. Where does that come from for you, for this very specific visual and this a very like specific way of basically torturing somebody, pulling them apart with hooks? Like where does that come from for you?
I think that when I deal with horror, one of the things that I always like to deal with is horror on a very personal level. So if you read my horror books, I don't. It's rarely about, oh, this cosmic creature is coming on and sucking up the entire world. I think it's far more scary, these little personal things, because all caught like our finger in a door, or we've even chopping carrots or whatever and sliced part of a finger off. One of the moments that's always fired me from horror is, and I think I've mentioned this before, is being a high school shop, and there was a kid using a table saw and managed to run his hand over the table saw, and one of his fingers just went spinning off through the air. And it was such a moment that's like this quality moment of horror in focus, because we could all feel that. So yeah, I try to the real personal things. And I grew up with a family that went fishing a lot. I watched hooks grab fingers and things like that. I watched one of the first instances of the Hollow using a hook is he hooks an ear. And my friend Kevin once hook his ear with his past. So
Yeah.
See, this is exactly why I use it. It's because of the reactions from you.
Yeah, it's the
Yeah,
personal, that
because you.
personal violence is so, it's just so specific, and like everybody's
Uh-huh.
experienced something like that. And like Nathan Duncan guessed a Hellraiser movie as well, if that was some of your inspirations. But I love Forrest Bates brought up or A Chipped Tooth, because like that first, I just love anybody who first opens up Bunny Mask Volume 1 and just like, okay, he's chiseling out his child's teeth. Like, here we go. Like, game on.
That was very much, that very first page was one of those pages that I blame Andrea for. And he turned it in and I'm like, oh my God, that's so gross, Andrea. I can't believe you are drawing that. And he's like, again, Paul, you wrote the script. But it's so easy when you write a script to go, this happens, and then Andrea will draw it. And I'm like, oh,
Like,
that's
God.
so sweet. So
Yeah, and his
yeah,
watercolors that are somehow still
there's
so
some rough
terrifying. Oof. And it's funny
stuff.
too, because somebody actually asked earlier if there'd ever be a Bunny Mask or and Maniac of New York crossover. But for anybody reading both books, Andrea is so sneaky. He's snuck in Bunny Mask into Maniac of New York, and he has snuck in the Mask of Maniac Harry into Bunny Mask. So if you're really paying attention, there already technically is a crossover, I guess.
Kind of, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm just
fridge magnets and T-shirts I've noticed and things like that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
just
he
little
he
sneaky
puts them
things.
in.
Yeah, he does.
Mhm.
Oh, it's so exciting. So we still have two more issues of Bunny Mask coming to shelves soon, and then of course the rest of the run of Calculated Man, and now the Hulu series. So is there anything else you want to tell us or hint to us about anything upcoming for both of these titles that are ongoing?
Oh boy, I hate giving spoilers. Calculated Man has a lot of twists that people probably won't see coming. In one particular twist is what the entire series is based upon, a twist that's dear to my heart. Um, and relationships, I guess the relationships will be further explored in Bunny Mask. And I think I try not to define Bunny Mask, because one of the things that I like about horror is the unknown. I always hate like when there's a horror book. There's a couple of, I won't name them, there's a couple of horror authors that I like that I tend to like first like 80% of their books, but then they start to describe the horror and it's like, and this is where the horror comes from. And to me, that kind of pulls the rug out from the scare. So I don't know that we'll ever like truly define Bunny Mask. So if people are looking for that, there will always be some darkness coming from the closet that Bunny Mask lived in, basically. So
Yeah, Adam Skinner on Facebook says much success and great thanks to you for Bunny Mask. The art looks great, amazing from the cover, but I don't think I'm going to be able to read that one. So fair enough, Adam. Don't worry, we have a Calculated Man that's not the same flavor of terror, as long as you're not afraid of math, you know. But I feel you, because like I'm usually not a horror person, but that's what's so fascinating about Bunny Mask, because it isn't a straight horror thing. And I do love how in each of the titles that you have with us at Aftershock, you have intertwined this very personal, relationships, whether it's romantic or deep friendships, throughout all these stories. And I love the fact that even with this crazy Bunny Mask character, as well as like My Date with Monsters, where there's literal nightmares coming in from their dimension. And then, the story of this like ex-gangster mathematician, like everything still has so much personality and personal growth for all these characters and their relationships. So I just cheers to you, and great work on having such variable and very different, you know, just themes and genres, but having them all still have such personal, like very specific things. So well done, sir.
thank you.
Yeah. And we know there's going to be so much more coming out from you. So where can everybody find you on the social medias?
Basically, the only social media I do is Twitter, but I am there a lot, so that's a bonus. And that's just Paul on Twitter. You can find me there.
Yeah. And are there any upcoming projects that you'd like to promote here, whether they're Aftershock or not?
I don't know which ones have been announced. There's a couple that I'm really happy about. There's a couple more horror books. There's a romance. You talk about me doing different jobs, and I do have a straight romance that I'll be writing with my wife, Colleen Coover. So yeah, there's a lot more genre skipping out there.
Yeah. Oh, and Adam Skinner on Facebook asks, thank you. Do you have an upbeat and happy comic book in the future? So by any chance, is the romance upbeat and happy?
Well, I do update and or like there's Bandette, which is probably the most charming book I've ever written. I'm doing Wrestle Castle, which is like a fun wrestling comic. So yeah, I do upbeat, happy joke stuff too. I write the Plants vs. Zombies comics for
Oh, yeah,
too,
that's
so
right. Yeah.
I love humor as well.
Well, as always, it is such a pleasure to talk to you. Thank you so much for your incredible work with us here at AfterShock and joining us for this happy hour to talk about these awesome books.
Thank you. It's always fun.
Yes, and everybody stick around because not only do we have a happy hour exclusive from Mike Ruth for A Calculated Man issue 1, but we have Bunny Mask graded books as well as a My Date with Monsters pack. So make sure you stick around. We'll be right back for the live sale. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the AfterShock Happy Hour and Live Sale. It is now time for the live sale, though. Thank you, everybody who joined for that interview. Thank you, Forrest Bates, for saying that was another great interview. Yes, and Alicia, we do have Mike Ruth back for another Happy Hour exclusive, this time of A Calculated Man issue 1. So if you didn't have a chance to pick this up at the your local comic book shop yesterday, you can pick it up right here and now. So I'm going to go through the full list of everything that we are selling, and then really quick, and then we will open up the sales with, you'll see the link in the chat as well as here, and we will get right going. So up next we have a Bunny Mask Volume 1 Issue 1 graded 9.8. We only have 3 of these available, and we are selling them for the low price of $50. Also, the Bunny Mask Ambassador variant, Volume 1, Issue 1, graded 9.8. We only have 15 available, also for $50. And then the Bunny Mask Happy Hour variant, also by Mike Ruth, graded at 9.8. We have 25 available at $50 each. We have the Bunny Mask Incentive variant, Volume 1, Issue 1, graded 9.8. We only have 3 available at $50. We have the last of the graded books. We have Bunny Mask, the Mask variant, Volume 1, Issue 1, graded 9.8. We only have 5 available of those at $50. And last but not least, for our happy hour sale, we have My Date with Monsters, the full set of 1 through 5 issues, with also the incentive cover and the happy hour cover, also by Mike Ruth. We only have 20 of those, so that's 7 comic books altogether, and we only have 20 of those bundles at $20 a piece. All right, so now we will open up the live sale so you guys can jump in and add all those to your cart. Hi. Oh, and Mike Ruth is in the comments right here and now. So if anybody has any questions for Mike Ruth, especially about this A Calculated Man #1 issue, please let us know. The Paul Dunn Show on YouTube says Mike Ruth is such a nice guy. He really is. It was so great having him on the last happy hour, and he's so fantastic. The link is now officially live for all of our sale items. And Nathan Duncan says, I own his original art. Thank you, Mike Ruth. Yes, he is so great. So I'll go through each of these a little slower this time. So that way, if anybody is just jumping on the stream now, you guys can check out everything we have available for this happy hour sale that will be available for the next 24 hours at this price. So we have a Calculated Man issue 1, and this is the Mike Ruth exclusive cover here for the happy hour. We only have 100 available this time, so only 100 available at $15. So this is a very small print run. So for all those collectors out there, very easily going to go up in price. The Paul Dunn show says, I own the art to Happy Hour Bunny Mask. That's awesome. Awesome, awesome. And for all of the graded books, we have the original cover for Bunny Mask Volume 1, Issue 1, graded 9.8. And again, this is the original and the first printing of the first issue. And we only have 3 available, and we're doing this for only $50. So again, for all those collectors out there, this is a really great find, as well as the Bunny Mask and Ambassador variant, Volume 1, Issue 1. We generally only do a print run about 200 of these when we do them for our Ambassador program, and basically the only other way to get the Ambassador covers is if you are a Ambassador shop. So we have about 350 shops across the US and Canada where we have our ambassadors go and hand these 2 at a time to each of their retailers that they work with. So it's very hard to get a hold of this. So this graded book, we only have 15 available for $50 each. And then speaking of what Paul just brought up, the Bunny Mask happy hour variant that Mike Ruth did. And this is for Volume 1, Issue 1, and this is graded at 9.8. There are 25 available, but again, we do a very small print run for these, and this is the only ones that we have graded, so very hard to find, and we're selling that at only $50 for the next 24 hours. And we have the Bunny Mask Incentive variant, Volume 1, Issue 1, graded 9.8. So for any of those who don't know what the incentive cover means, is whenever we have a brand new number 1, retailers that purchase 15 copies can order one and then purchase some more of these incentive covers. So those are also very rare and hard to find. So we only have 3 available at this graded book for $50. And then our last of our graded books, we have Bunny Mask, the Mask variant, Volume 1, Issue 1. So this was even an extra added incentive cover for retailers. So there's even fewer of these out and about in the world. And this is graded 9.8, 5 available for $50 each. Well, Michael Chang on Facebook, where do we get these comics? Right here, right now. We have a link that you can buy these at this price only for the next 24 hours. And thank you, Restream. We got that link posted yet again. So make sure you click on that. You can add all these to your cart right now for the next 24 hours. They'll be at this lower price. But then after that, you can get these comics at your local comic book shop. They just obviously won't be these specific exclusives, but these are all available. Calculated Man just came out yesterday, as well as Bunny Mask, The Hollow Inside, Volume 2, Issue 2. That just came out yesterday as well at your local comic book shop. And last but not least, for our happy hour here today, we have My Date with Monsters pack. So it basically has the entire run of issue 1 through 5, plus the incentive cover and the happy hour exclusive cover by Mike Ruth. All of those, so it's 7 comic books for only $20, and we have 20 of these available. So again, make sure that you use that link, add these to your cart, and close out as soon as possible, so that way you can get some of this exclusive items at a fraction of the cost. So everybody, thank you so much for joining. We will have another happy hour next month, and we'll be continuing and adding some more video content for you guys every single Thursday. So make sure that you hit that like, subscribe button, so that way you can see all the awesomeness coming your way here from AfterShock. And just stay safe out there, wash your hands, wear your mask, keep your distance, and only read dangerously. We'll see you next time.